Hey guys, happy Thursday. Hope you're having a great day. Hope your week is treating you well. So let's just talk about it. So you guys know that I always aspire to educate and encourage and motivate and inspire and uplift and empower, all those good things. But I would be going against like my basic instincts, and I even going against those things that I hope to be and do if I let, things just pass by without comment. And this isn't, if you don't agree, it's fine. But I just want to have an honest conversation just in kind of response to what is happening in this country right now. So I read this meme the other day. I can't remember who it was that said it, but this is what it said. It said, when a woman tells you it's misogynistic, sit down, believe her, and unlearn it. When an immigrant tells you it's xenophobic, sit down, listen to them, and unlearn it. When a black person tells you it's racist, sit down, listen to them, and unlearn it. And I think we are so much in a very kind of defensive space, which I get in some respects, in this country, in the world as a whole. We're in a very defensive space, and I think a lot of the dismissal of people's arguments on those three topics, equality, right, is because we don't want to take any responsibility, or we don't want it to mean that we're a bad person or we're doing something wrong. I get that. But when things that are happening in this country continue to happen, and the same arguments that people have continue to be the same arguments, there has to be a time where we kind of have to listen and unlearn things. So we all know what's happening in Kenosha right now, right? And for those of you that don't know, I'll do probably a very poor job of breaking it down. But a couple of nights ago, there was a man, Jacob Blake, a black man, who was shot 7 times in the back by police officers. He had an altercation with a police officer, was walking around his car to get into his car or reach for something in his car. There were 4 police officers standing behind him, and he was shot 7 times when he reached down in his car, in his back. He's probably crippled for life, so that's what happened, right? And then that sparked protests, which ended up being violence and looting in the streets of Kenosha later on, like in the evening, 2 nights ago. Hey, Micah. Oh my gosh, I miss you so much. And during this violence, there was a young boy, 17 years old, white kid, was armed, AK-15 strapped to his chest. Like, I'd never seen an AK-15 before, but I saw the footage, and it's a big fucking gun. Apparently to defend a business. He'd driven into the town to defend a business, not his business, because he's 17, and was walking down, like he shot and killed somebody, apparently in defense of this business. Then he was walking down the middle of the road, the middle of the street, with the gun across his chest. People were chasing after him, managed to tackle him because he just shot and killed somebody. He fell on the ground, managed to get back up, shot 2 more people, killing another person, and then proceeded to carry on walking down the middle of a big street, gun strapped across his chest. In the footage, 3 police cars drive across the street, so the street's coming to an intersection, drive across the street like this with people in the background screaming and shouting, he just killed somebody, he's just shot people, and they drive on and do nothing about it. He gets arrested the next day because of internet kind of outbursts. There's a question that has to be asked, whether or not you're comfortable asking the question, whether you're not you're comfortable sitting with the question, whether or not you believe that this is true. But the question has to be asked, how does an unarmed black man get shot 7 times in the back in the company of 4 police officers, not 1, 4 police officers shoot him 7 times in the back, unarmed. But a white kid walking down the middle of a street with a gun strapped to his chest that had just killed 2 people and injured 1 is allowed to continue about his evening and then gets arrested the next day. Goes through due process, goes through all of the ways in which somebody should be arrested and handled for committing a crime. Okay? Hey, Ashley. So, again, and I say this again, as a black person, because African American and black are not the same thing. I'm not African American, but I am black. When a black person tells you it's racism, sit down, listen to them, and unlearn it. That's what being a good human is. Don't dismiss it. When a woman tells you she was raped, don't dismiss it. When somebody tells you that she was abused, don't dismiss it. When a child comes to you and tells you that they're being abused, don't dismiss it. You sit down, you listen to them, and you unlearn whatever prejudice it is that you may have, right? And I get very passionate about this because regardless of your politics, regardless of your beliefs, regardless of your religion, being a good human is what makes society work. It's what makes the world a beautiful place, and it's what makes America, this country, a place that everybody wants it to be, right? We all want it to be that the American dream. We all want it to be that beacon in the whole world. We want it to be a superpower that people respect and just have so much admiration for. Hi, Riley. That's what we want. Because whether you're a citizen here, you're born and bred here, or you live here, that's what you want. But it can't be that when we continue to dismiss and marginalize and just pretend as if there aren't big chunks of the population who continue to be just fodder. Hey, David. I would love to know what some of you guys' thoughts are, if you're happy to share. And again, if you disagree with me, that's being part of being a good human, is being able to talk about differings of opinion without anybody being wrong, right? So I'm just sitting in a space of, oh, you're so sweet, David. Sitting in a space of, maybe I was naive. Like, I put my hands up and I recognize maybe I was naive, thinking that everything we went through back in May was going to be the thing. And I think in a lot of respects it was. Like George Floyd, the protests that came out of that, the change that is happening out of that, it's definitely something that is sparking revolution, right? But I think I naively believed that it would be the thing that was finally the thing, the straw that broke the camel's back, the final kind of, thing that changed stuff. And then the last 3 days have proven that that's not the case. And it just, I wonder, the people that have the argument of, with Jacob Blake, hey, Steph, with Jacob Blake, the people that have the argument of, well, he must have done something. Well, he was reaching for a gun. Well, the officers didn't know what he was going to get from his car. Okay, fair. They didn't know. Fair, he could have been reaching for a gun. Homeboy could have had a sawn-off shotgun in his car that he was reaching for, and there was still no need for 4 officers to fire 7 shots into his back. They could have tackled him. They could have knocked him upside the head and knocked him out with one of their weapons. They could have done anything. and one shot would have been effective. What was shots 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 representing? And that's where I have to argue with people who say he must have done something. They didn't know if their lives were in danger. They didn't know what he was going to do. Black men are dangerous. That's why I have to argue with it. Hey, Sunny. My gosh, it's been forever. So what are your thoughts about that? I would love to know. Stacey just said she naively maybe believed that too and is disappointed. Very disappointed. And not disappointed in humans, because we are a flawed race, right? We're never going to have all the answers. We're never going to get it right all the time. Hi, Susan. We're going to get it wrong. This is a problem that's been around a long time, not just race, also misogyny, also xenophobia. These are things, lack of equality. These are things that have been around a long time. So it's going to take a long time to change it, right? It's just like, equate it to you having 300 pounds that you want to lose. You're not going to reasonably expect 5 months of eating well to lose that weight, right? You would expect it to take a long time because it took you a long time to get to that size. So it's reasonable to expect it's going to take you a long time to reverse it. It's been 500 years. Am I getting my history right? I think. Please correct me if that's wrong. 500 years, right? It would be reasonable to expect it to take close to 500 years to completely unwrite it all, right? So it's not disappointment. Hey, Lorraine. It's not disappointment in human beings. It's disappointment in the system, and it's disappointment in individuals' ability to dismiss what they see with their own two eyes, and a lack of, a lack of willingness to unlearn, right? Because that's hard, and I get it, guys, I totally get it, and I see some comments, I'll get to those in a second. I totally get it, right? There's, like I said before, it's unnerving to maybe see the country that you're proud to call yourself an American. You're proud to live here. Obviously, I'm wanted to be in this country. Otherwise, we wouldn't have come here. I've lived here for 10 years. It's hard to kind of marry, maybe, or come to some kind of understanding of how maybe what you thought was the way isn't actually the way, or maybe what you believed was just and true isn't actually just and true, because then that you start to be like, oh, what did I do? It starts to become a blame thing, because that's natural. That's part of being human. Again, we have a very blaming kind of culture. So I get it. I get that there's a lack of willingness to unlearn. But if we say that we want people to be more compassionate, if we say that we want people to be more kind, if we say that we wished people were just less hateful, if we say that why can't people just get along? Like, these are the kinds of things that we just say, right? If that's truly what we want, then we have to become more compassionate. We have to become more kind. We have to get along. And that can only be done by really looking at what is happening and taking it at face value. Don't try and dismiss it. Don't try and second guess it. Don't try and excuse it. Just look at it. Look at it. And then you've got people that have the argument of, oh, all the violence, the looting, he was just protecting his property. Homeboy is 17. He didn't live in the town. What business does he have that he's protecting? It's not his business. And does protecting a business warrant taking 2 lives? And I think that's where a lot of priorities are exposed, that protecting property is seen as being more noble than protesting for equality. I don't know. Those are kind of my 2 cents. David, that's America for you. It's not going to change. Not, at least not anytime soon. It's not. It's not going to change anytime soon because it's a lot of unlearning that needs to be done. Riley, I don't think it matters if he was reaching for anything. There are other options. I feel like we're experiencing mass trauma over and over again as a black person in this country. I completely agree with you. And I think that's where the violence comes from. That's where the unrest comes from. That's where, you know, people say protesters and looters. They're not the same thing, by the way. But protests that turn into looting and burnings and violence, I'm not excusing it, but I can see how it happens because it's this trauma and rage and frustration and anger and sadness, all of these negative emotions that black people in this country just have to sit with on a day-to-day basis because they see people that look like them being killed or paralyzed or incarcerated or whatever daily, unjustly, and with no hope for better, and yet they're still required to live by the social agreements of obey the law, be a good human, don't burn shit down, don't steal stuff. Like Trevor Noah put it in a really great way. If you guys haven't watched any of Trevor Noah's kind of analysis and coverage since the pandemic kind of hit, he's like a lighthouse amongst all of this stuff for me anyway. I strongly encourage that you do, but he stated it in a perfect way. He was like, black people in this country have been required to live by a social contract. And the social contract is you obey the law, you are gracious, you do the things, you know, blah, 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 blah. And so, like, you're protected. You have this social contract. And that's part of why people get so offended by seeing lootings happen and burning buildings down and all that kind of stuff, because the people that are doing that are breaking our social contract. Our social contract states that we don't break the law, right? So they live by that, but then are constantly seeing this side of the social contract being decimated, not being lived up to, because they're being killed and they're being incarcerated and they're living unjustly and all the things that black people in this country have to deal with, systemic racism, all of that. They're seeing that part of the contract get torn up and thrown away. So what contract are they supposed to honor? And that, I just thought that was a really interesting way of putting it as he did. Yeah, Riley, I agree with you. I don't think it matters that he was reaching for anything either. There's only so much rage you can contain before you explode. We've been made to march quietly and comply for generations. Now, nailed it. Nail on the head. And it's, I mean, and it's not a this isn't a political argument, whereas a lot of people make it one. It's not a political argument. It's a be a fucking good fucking human argument. Like, don't kill people. I didn't realize that was a partisan issue. Oh, guys, my heart is heavy. Really, really heavy. I don't know. I don't know what it's going to take for change to actually happen and in a way that we can see the change. Yes, like I said, it's going to take a long ass time. It's not going to happen tomorrow, but in a way that we can see things are changing for the better so that we can continue to comply and march quietly and do things that we're supposed to do because that side of the social contract is being honored. I don't know what it's going to take for that to happen. I don't know how long it's going to take for that to happen, but I don't know. So I'm going to go, but I want to like close out by just encouraging you. So my husband and I, we've lived in this country for 10 years. We have green cards, but we're not citizens, so we can't vote. So I encourage you, whatever your political leanings are, I don't care about your politics, vote. okay? Use that voice that you have. Use that power that you have and vote. If you want something to be different, go out and use your voice to make it different. Because I, for one, would love to be able to do that, and I can't. So please go out and vote, okay? So anyway, guys, enjoy your Thursday evening as best you can. Do things that make your heart lighter, whatever that looks like for you. And try not to let this stuff drag you down, because that's where it starts to feel insurmountable and dark and heavy. And we can't operate for progress if we're stuck in that oppression, you know? So do what you can to feel good about the human that you are, and just be a good human. That's it. Guys, have a wonderful rest of your evening. Thank you for chatting with me. Any further comments, anybody that's watching the replay, I'll come back in and I'll answer them. But thank you for being willing to speak with me about this. I know it's tough. Good night.